I want to say it was like end of high school, beginning of college that I discovered pansexuality and all of that and kind of like truly figured out exactly what shape my little puzzle piece was.
Welcome to the Coffeeshop AU. I'm Jay, your host. I'm trans, non-binary, neurodivergent, and currently based in Seoul, Korea. My pronouns are they, them, and I believe that queer folks like me deserve more safe spaces to tell our stories our way. And to help me do just that, today I'm joined by my friend Danee. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Pretty awake. I don't often get to do these things in the evening, but here we are. I'm excited to see you.
I'm excited to see you too. I think it's been too long.
Yeah, the last time was...
When was the last? I saw you over Christmas.
Yes, you came to Seoul and we had some food and some music and you sang in front of a random small crowd of people you were meeting for the first time.
Yep. Typical day for Danee.
Yeah, honestly. Why not show it off? You know, got a magical voice. Really tailored for singing Adele.
Yeah.
So tell us, where are you joining us from and what are you drinking?
Absolutely. I am joining you from the comfort of my studio apartment located here in Busan, just a small walk away from our fabulous baseball stadium. And on every corner is both a coffee shop and a convenience store.
Ooh.
Some might call this paradise. I call it home.
Oh, that's wonderful. We met through Mo,
Yeah.
you know, just to put everything out there. Mo lives in Busan. We had an interview last week, actually.
Oh, yay.
You live also in Busan. It seems like there's a pretty active queer community in Busan.
Yeah.
And it's like a seaside city. I've been there once. It is very nice.
Yes.
So you mentioned convenience stores.
Yes. There are convenience stores on every corner, and my favorite thing to drink at all of them is a blue lemonade. I don't know what's special about this blue lemonade, but it's delicious. And it's blue. So.
Yeah. And that's what you're drinking today.
Absolutely. Oh, of course.
Describe the drink for us in detail.
The best word that I can think of to describe this drink is like crisp and sweet. I don't think you're supposed to use crisp to describe liquid things, but I'm choosing to anyway. It's just got this freshness to it.
Yeah, the taste note.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's great. I love it. It's just the perfect level of like sweet and like juicy, but it's not like a fruity juice. It's like a citrus juice.
Oh, okay.
If that makes sense.
I was gonna say it's just artificial.
That too. I'm really bad at describing things.
Nothing natural about it. That's okay. Just show it to
yes.
me. I'm always startled at how blue this blue
Yeah.
drink really is. Can I take a screenshot of this?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Just be like,
Here we go. Perfection.
Awesome.
First things first. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Of course. So, for everyone, I am Danee, short for Danelia, and I am a cisgendered, pansexual Black woman living and working in South Korea.
Mm-hmm.
I am an aggressively positive person.
Yes.
Everything I do is aggressive. Absolutely everything. I love people aggressively. I make all of my decisions very impulsively.
Mm-hmm.
And I try really hard so that no one ever feels sad in my presence.
Aw,
So that's
that's sweet.
so that's me. Just my little giant ball of chaotic energy.
Yeah, really, really accurate from what I've seen of you. And your pronouns are?
She, her. Ha! She, her.
You're from the States.
Yes. Moving to Korea is my first time ever like leaving the United States. So I said, go big or go home. We're going to move somewhere new completely.
Oh, yeah. And you did that because your roommate from back in the States was like, hey, Danee, you want to go to South Korea for a bit and,
Yep.
and work and live and see what's up?
Yes. Because I'm an impulsive person.
You're like, yeah.
So this was an impulsive decision.
Yeah.
But I love it. It was the best decision ever.
Right. Where in the States are you from originally?
So,
You have a whole lore.
you know, I do. I was born in the state of Florida, which is where I believe I get my audacity from. And then I was raised in like this small town in Southern Virginia in the middle of nowhere. But I spent all of my college years and like post-graduation years outside of DC. So mostly in Virginia is where most of my life has been. But I did spend a few of my primitive years in Florida, which is where I absolutely believe most of my crazy quirks come from.
Did you just say primitive years?
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, we'll take it. Do you have any memories of growing up in Florida that sticks out to you? Because I've never been to Florida, I've never lived there, but anytime I hear any story of people who have been in Florida, I'm intrigued. So do you have anything that you want to leave us with?
The only thing that I truly remember, like, from Florida is that I had a babysitter who was from Panama. And so she spoke, like, very proper English because it wasn't her first language.
Okay.
And my mom used to always tell me that I, like, walked around, like, mimicking the way that she spoke because I spent so much time with her. And so she's like, you spoke very proper English as a baby.
Yeah.
And then we moved and you got older and it all went to shit. So...
It fell apart.
Fell apart
We
real
can't
fast.
swear on this podcast, I've decided.
I'm so sorry. Okay.
I've decided that because I've had like one episode that had to be rated age restricted because we were talking about hooking up with people.
Right.
Although we weren't really swearing. And then in subsequent episodes, I was like, maybe all of our episodes are going to be age restricted. And so my friends were like, oh, okay, then let me just let it rip. But then also, because of who I am and who my friends are, the worst that it got was the really general, like, area.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is not enough for me to decide that our podcast is going to be age restricted in general.
Right.
So I've decided that in places where we can't, like, re-record or edit it out completely, I'm just going to replace it with meows.
Please, there's gonna be a lot of meows because I'm gonna do my darndest. There you go.
Okay.
To not curse, but I fail at not cursing in front of my kids sometimes. So we're gonna try real hard.
The children you teach.
The children, yes. I don't have any actual kids. My students are my kids.
Yeah. You're a baby yourself.
I don't feel like a baby. You think I'm a baby. No one else thinks I'm a baby.
I call you a baby. I know.
I met a 19-year-old the other day, and I was like, a child.
Well, that's just a fetus.
Right.
That's not a child. That's a fetus.
I was like, ooh, is this how Jay feels whenever they talk to me?
Oh my gosh. You get it now. You get it now.
Yeah, I was like,
So for anybody listening who's wondering why I call you a baby, it's because you're in your mid-20s. When I first met you, I thought you were in your late 20s. And I thought we were sort of close in age. I'm in my early 30s. So I was like, I can talk about whatever with this person. Oh my gosh, she's so cool. And then...
Plot twist.
Yeah, on our way back from the camping trip that we met on.
Was it the way back that you found?
That's when I found it. The way back. On the bus.
3 days
station.
later.
And you told me how old you were, and I was like, oh.
Well.
Okay, let me backtrack some of the stuff that I put out there, maybe. Anyway, you're one of my youngest friends. That's why I call you a baby.
Yes.
I don't think I treat you like one.
I don't think so.
I just like to call you a baby.
Absolutely.
Anyway, yeah, it might be close to what I feel about you when you meet a 19-year-old.
I was cringing.
Yes. You do cringe a little bit. It's not because the person is cringeworthy. It's just because it reminds you of how old you are.
Yes.
And what you are like at that age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway, welcome to Korea.
Woo!
If you could give us a very summary version of what your experience has been like living in Korea the past year.
Oh my goodness, yes. Oh, let's see. I feel like I'm either too brief or there's too many details. So let's see.
The joys of being neurodivergent.
Literally. Speaking of, side note, my friends have been calling me out on a lot of my like neurodivergent traits lately. Especially with me like moving.
Right.
And one of my friends, I had been complaining that I had no butter. I was like, I have no butter. I'm very frustrated. Like, all I want to do is make grits and I don't have butter. And I was taking something from one apartment to the next apartment. And when I came back, I walked in and my friend looked at me and went, Danny, you have ADHD. And she opens my fridge and is like, you have 2 sticks of French butter unopened. Just in the fridge.
Oh my gosh. This reminded me the last time I saw you in person, you were also talking about not having butter, but you were also saying simultaneously that you had bought butter.
Bro.
So,
I
totally missed that.
It was so bad.
We're all multitasking at the time.
Yeah. So yeah, she's like, this is 2 sticks of it unopened, completely unopened.
How did that make you feel, Danny?
not again, basically. One of my coworkers, whom I love, does the same thing to me. Like the other day, I was telling her how I got so much work done. And she's like, oh, that's good. Like, what did you do differently to help you get all this work done? And I was like, I put in my headphones and I realized when I'm playing music, if I let the songs change, I can't focus. But if I play the same song over and over and over again on repeat, I get so much stuff done. And she looked at me dead in my face and said, that would be the tism. That's how she refers to autism. And I was like, I hate you.
But you're probably
why
right.
do you do this to me? She's like, normal people don't do that, Danny. Normal people don't need to listen to one song.
What do you mean normal people?
Right.
All my friends and I listen to one song on repeat.
I was like, that's not normal? I don't understand.
Yeah, we're all neurospicy.
Well, but yeah, she frequently says that to me.
I had the same experience. I was like at this gathering and there were 2 other people there gathering.
This gathering?
It was supposed to be a bigger one. It's just like people left.
Yeah.
And then somebody asked, can somebody put some music on? So I put on my playlist and they had different songs on it. But because I usually tend to listen to one song over and over and over again, I don't really get tired of songs easily.
Me either.
So it just was playing on repeat. I didn't even realize that it was until somebody pointed out, hey, is this song on repeat? And I was like, oh, yeah, let me change that. And then they were like, how do you listen to the same song over and over and over again? You can't listen to the same song in one waking period.
Watch me.
And I just went, what? Yeah. And the other person there, interestingly, they were like, but I listen to the same song in one waking period. And I was like, me too. I never listened to more than one song in one waking period. And there was just this like moment of silence.
Literally. It's like I hyperfixate on the one song.
Yeah. You want to listen to all of it. You know, you don't just want to skim the song. You want to listen to all of it.
Yeah.
And every time it plays again, you catch something new.
Yeah.
If you're paying attention. If not, it's just soothing.
Exactly.
I do like repetition. Yeah.
I don't like change.
I don't like change either.
Says the girl who moved all the way to Korea.
Yeah.
But I don't like change.
Yeah, once you get there, you don't like change.
Yeah.
We need periodic massive changes.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yes.
We can deal with that.
Absolutely.
But not songs.
No, those have to, I have like specific playlists for like specific moods and it's like 1 or 2 songs. And it's just like those 2 going back and forth.
Yes.
Like, I don't care. Yes. This is what I want. I can't handle more than like 3 songs on a playlist. I get overwhelmed.
Most of my playlists are literally 3 songs. And I'm like, yes. That's all I need.
It's like I have a couple that have like a lot, but they're not for me. They're for other people.
Because we're considerate.
We are!
We're accommodating.
We are.
We understand that other people function differently.
Yeah. Absolutely. So my experiences in Korea have been very positive for the most part. I feel like I have absolutely enjoyed living here. I've made tons of friends. I've had tons of like positive interactions with people. One of my favorite things is I remember I was on like a yacht and I was talking to this guy and when I was just like talking about like my experiences with taxi drivers in Korea and he was like listening to me and he's like, I don't understand. I was like, what do you not understand? He's like, you've had only positive experiences with taxi drivers, which is like unheard of, right? Usually, especially foreigners, like we don't have the greatest experiences all the time with our taxi drivers.
Right.
But mine have been great. I think I had one time where like a taxi driver pulled up, saw I was a foreigner, and then drove away.
Right.
It happened like once, and I've been here for a year. Every other time, it's been like great. And I had one taxi driver who was jamming to Smooth Operator in the front seat, just jamming. And I was like, I love this song. And so we're both chilling, singing along to Smooth Operator at 3:00 in the morning, and I'm drunk. Like, it's a great time.
Oh my gosh. That sounds like a dream. Honestly, I have seen you interact with different people, right? Mostly friends, that people I know, we both know. But I also remember watching you interact with a bartender. And honestly, like, I was not expecting that bartender to be so friendly. You know, they were normal with me. They were perfectly fine. Very serviceable interaction, you know? And then you walked up and you were like, hello. And then they were like beaming at you like, hey. And then you just had this really sunshiny, really happy interaction and you weren't really doing anything. You were just being you. And I feel like you might have this sunny disposition, you know? and people just react to it. So that could be part of the reason why.
Maybe.
Because I have heard stories of other foreign people who look non-Korean being passed up by taxi drivers. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, it happens all the time. And I'm like, what the heck? Because I, as a person who presents as Korean from the outside, I've never had that experience. So it was just shocking. But it's lovely to hear that you have been an exception.
It's been great.
Apparently.
It's been, like, one time, I think my favorite taxi experience, this is when I, like, first came to Korea. So, like, I don't speak Korean by any means. But at this point in the year, like, I am able to communicate with my taxi drivers enough to get me home. You know what I mean?
Right, because you're learning Korean.
Yes.
You're taking Korean lessons.
So I am able to do what I need to get home in one piece.
Oh.
But at this point, I spoke like little to none. I basically just hit him with I don't speak Korean yet, and we just kind of keep it pushing. And so I had gotten in the taxi, and I don't remember what he said to me, but I definitely was like, I don't speak Korean. And so he switches, and he starts talking to me in English.
Ooh.
And he tells me that he actually lives 5 minutes from where he's about to drop me off at, which is my apartment. And I'm like,
wow.
What are the odds, right? Because, like, I'm at Gwangali Beach, and I live, like, 20 minutes away from there. And he's, like, driving me home. He's like, yeah, I live, like, 5 minutes from you above the Loteria. And I'm like, stop. What is it? He's like, yeah, if you need anything, this is my room number. Like, just let me know.
What?
He never gave me his name or, like, a number to reach him at. But he's like, just come pop up.
Just his room number.
What? I remember telling Ian about it.
That's kind
and he was
of
like, what? I was like, yes.
Ian is your
my best friend.
Best friend / roommate from the person who convinced you to come to Korea.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But yeah, he was just like, what? I was like, I don't know how these interactions happen to me. I don't know. It just does. And it's like,
yeah, it's just who you are.
Yeah.
Just who you are. And we'll get more into this, your entire experience of living in Korea later on. But yeah, kudos to your vibes.
Boom.
Human sunshine.
It's the only way I survive, I think, at this point. It's just pure, like, vibes. It's like, you can't, like, have a conversation with me and be upset. I just can't believe it. I refuse to accept that. I refuse to think that's true. I will make your day better. I will.
That's completely true. When we first really spoke was at the Cabin in the Woods.
Let's just hold on, pause.
For anybody who doesn't know what Cabin in the Woods is in this context, please listen to the previous episode. So Mo's episode, which is going to be released before this one. Just listen to that. But how would you describe it, though, since this is a separate episode?
Oh my gosh. That whole trip was the most uncharacteristically me thing I ever could have done. I loved it. So let me explain.
Interesting.
Let me explain. I am really big about not doing white people stuff since I can't curse. White people things. I don't do that. So, like, I don't climb trees. I don't talk back to my parents. I don't talk back to the cops. Like, I don't go camping in the woods. I don't mess around with haunted things. I don't do white people stuff. We don't do that.
Yes.
Those are all things reserved for people of palm-colored complexion, and I don't do them.
This is literally the best description ever. Palm color complexion.
I have a lot
amazing.
of phrases. I have a lot of phrases for my vanilla friends.
Yeah, you've had your entire life to come up with that.
Absolutely. I'll
Wait, am I included in the vanilla friends too? If we're just going by complexion, what am I?
I haven't considered that, and I don't know if I could come up with one that's not a little racist, so I'm not going to even go there. We're not even going to cross that threshold.
We're going to go... Yes. We're going to give it some time to simmer.
I'm going to let that simmer.
Your mind can come up with
we're gonna come up
incredibly
with a good one.
appropriate
But
euphemism.
Yes. But anyway, I don't do white people things. So going to a cabin in the woods.
Yes. In the middle of the Korean mountains.
In the middle of Korean mountains. And, like, it's not like we're in tents, right? We're in, like, a house. But we're, like, sleeping on the floor. And we have to remember that the closest thing I've been to camping is a fancy cabin that's, like, 4 stories in Tennessee with a hot tub and a pool table.
4 stories?
It's huge!
Does that still count as a cabin?
I don't think so. It's basically a house.
I've never been to
It's basically a house in Tennessee.
Yeah, basically a mansion.
And basically, it felt like one, because we have to remember, I was poor. So, like, my family would spend, like, 3 years saving up to go to a cabin in Tennessee for, like, a week. And just, like, it had all the works. Jacuzzis, pool tables. I wasn't really camping. You know what I mean? Like, so this is the closest thing I've been to camping.
You're glamping.
I'm glamping. And so you're telling me that I'm about to go to the cabin in the woods in the middle of the Korean mountains.
Yes.
With 10 people whom I've basically never met before. Ian being the only person I know. And the people that I do quote unquote know, I've met like twice before this moment. This is the definition of white people. White people things. This is, like, that's what this is. This is the setup to a horror film. So, like, what am I doing?
Yeah, I cannot disagree.
So this is not something I do. But for some reason, moving to another country and being stripped of all the people that you know will make you do some crazy things for friendship. So I agreed. I agreed to go to this fancy cabin. Not fancy, but I agreed to go to this cabin in the woods with a bunch of strangers who could potentially murder me for like 3 days.
Yeah.
I regret nothing. I clearly came back alive.
You did come back alive. And although, you know, physically, I feel like we're all pretty hungover.
Absolutely.
On the way back. Because the drinking really started, like, once we got there.
As soon as we got there.
So, since you've given this amazing, you know, description from your perspective, let me give you the dry facts of how this transpired.
You think mine wasn't facts?
Total facts. But much more entertaining and, you know, relatable than what I am about to say. But this is necessary because we have people listening in who don't know who we are. I feel like we forget that sometimes on this show. I'm like, I know you, you know me.
Yeah.
I know who I am, you know who you are.
Yeah.
There are people who are probably listening to the show who have no idea what we're doing here. So this cabin in the woods was a weekend trip organized by our mutual friend Mo. And, you know, it was a pretty much like a queer retreat. At least that was my impression of it. Seemed like most people invited on this trip were queer. And mostly, yes, white people. And they had booked an Airbnb for us to stay in. Really beautiful. The surrounding was just Korean countryside. The air is incredibly clear, like really fresh. And we could do barbecues. There was a huge lawn outside. There were some church pews on the balcony for whatever reason. And most of us hadn't met each other before. So whoever Mo invited and then agreed to go on this trip with them were all kind of brave humans who are like, well, I guess we're just gonna do this and see what happens. But before I actually like fully signed up, I did check out the group chat room profile pics of the other people who are in that room. And literally when we first started to speak at the actual event, when we got to the Airbnb, we were kind of tipsy at that point. I turned to you. All I knew about you was you're a friend of Mo's friend and you really liked maths. That's what you had kept on saying. I love maths. And I was like, okay, this person seems cool. So I turned to you and I said, hey, did you check out the guest list before you showed up? Did you check out the profile pics? And you were like, yeah. And I was like, yeah. And seeing each other's faces was like kind of our safety, what's the word? Not deposit, but kind of like something to secure.
Yeah.
Well, to put our minds at ease.
Yeah.
Somewhat. I'm not going to be the only non-white person there.
Right.
That's kind of important when we're going to a literal cabin in the woods with not too much outside contact.
Yeah.
I know I'm a Korean person in Korea, but still, we're isolated.
No, absolutely.
Anything could happen.
We're isolated. You never know.
And that's how we met. We proceeded to like drink, talked about some really wild things. Right.
And I was so glad it happened because I remember, so like when I first met you, we were at that place to do like the zip lining before because like, that's where you met all of us.
Oh, yeah. Right. We did some activities before
Yes.
going to the cabin.
And I remember, like, you got there, and I don't think we had more than, like, a head nod and a hey moment, like, at that point. It was just like a hi, nice to meet you, that's it. And so everyone's doing the zip lining, and I was not doing the zip lining because, again, white people things. And I'm just kidding. I have done zip lining in the past, but this place was like, if you're above this weight, you probably shouldn't. And I was like, I'm not going to die today.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because on top of being black and queer, I am also plus sized. So, no thank you. So I remember I was like taking videos and pictures of everyone.
Right.
And when I saw you, the whole time I was like, I have to talk to them. I feel like I'm going to like them.
Oh, really?
We need to talk. Though in my head,
Why?
I don't even know why. Vibes. I just survive on pure vibes, and your vibes and my vibes just felt like they were going to match. And the whole time I was sitting there very, very anxious.
Really?
Thinking, how am I going to wiggle into this and not be weird, but also become BFFs?
Oh my gosh, this is the first time I'm hearing of this.
Yeah.
I thought that desire to form a friendship with me formed later on. But wow.
No. Right away. I was like, how? The whole time. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know. We're just going to hope for the best.
That's incredibly flattering. Thank you.
I just felt like we were going to get along very well. I liked the way that, like, you carried yourself. You were going to be my person. I knew it. That's all that mattered in the moment.
I had no idea because until we had that exchange.
Yeah.
Of did you check out the guest list? I feel like you were just having a good time, talking with other people, drinking a lot.
As soon as we got there.
Generally being the human vitamin.
The human vitamin.
You know, I really thought that we became friends when we went down the hill to buy those packs of cigarettes.
That's like when it happened. I just wanted it to happen before.
Okay.
But that's the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, because we survived that climb down and then climb up in the pitch dark.
Yeah. That was it. That was our binding moment. And I only went down that hill because I wanted to be a friend. Because I don't smoke. So I was like, what am I doing? I only went down there to talk to you.
That's true. You did say, I don't smoke. And then you also proceeded to
smoke.
Demolish a quarter of the pack.
You know,
I was
whatever.
like, I thought you didn't smoke, but honestly, I don't care. So, okay. Excellent. Well, wow. I am so honored that you were willing to risk your life to develop this friendship with me.
That's the kind of friend that I am, too. Just in life. I will do whatever.
It's true. Yeah,
friends.
you do show up. And I really appreciate that about you. And I feel like the sentiment... I can't say the sentiment was mutual because I had no idea that you were doing that just to be my friend. But once we started talking about how many raccoons? How many raccoons can fit up a human anus at one point? Because there was somebody there who was really scared of having anything up there but it's just in general in life. And we were trying to convince this person, hey, maybe keep an open mind. And then you came up with this fact.
Yes. Which is a fact. You can Google it, by the way. You can Google it. Google will give you an answer.
How many raccoons is it?
I believe it's 2.
Oh, it's only 2? I thought you said 4 or 5.
I'm going to double check right now.
Okay, maybe we're saying like you can fit way more like raccoon hands up the human anus.
2 full raccoons. 2 fully grown raccoons.
Is that circumference by raccoon torsos? Around the raccoon torso or like the head or the...
I'm assuming it means like the torso.
Okay, so not like the entirety of the raccoon.
I don't know. It just says that the...
Because that would be a lot.
Right? It says the human anus can stretch up to 7 inches before taking damage.
7 inches? That's a lot.
So you can fit about 2 full-grown raccoons up your butt.
Before taking damage.
So it can keep going.
I feel like there will be some kind of prep work and... Oh, yeah. Right. Okay. It just hurts.
It just hurts after that.
And maybe you're going to lose some functions later on. Yeah, everybody works differently. Mm-hmm. But I feel like that moment, and everybody was like bawling over, crying because of this incredible fact that we all found out. You really enlightened us. I feel like that moment was the moment when I was like, okay, yes, we are going to be friends. The beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Please walk me through what was going on in your head at the time.
Okay, so first of all, let us own the fact that we were pretty drunk.
Yeah.
We were like at least 2 bottles of makgeolli into the night.
Yeah.
Also, the night air was so fresh. And it was just like the whole kind of chemical-induced euphoria. Plus the fact that you were willing to... Because you did not start this conversation.
No!
This person and I were talking about this. And you were standing like near us. And you were just kind of listening in. And once I started to make some arguments for never say never.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to say yes, but just keep an open mind. I'm very pro trying anything once.
Yeah.
And I was just trying to argue for that. And when you really just seamlessly joined in on the conversation, and you wasn't just like, yeah, keep an open mind. You're like, 2 full raccoons can fit up there. So just don't be scared of little bitty human hand. You know, fisting, what is that? I mean, that's just like child's play.
Literally.
So I felt very supported
Of course.
in my view of the world. And I really felt like you had my back, even though we'd only known each other for a few hours at that point. I felt like I was probably getting some neurodivergence vibe off of you too, just because of how passionate you were talking about maths.
And raccoons up the butt? Yeah. Uh-huh.
You didn't have to. You didn't have to talk about it. But you kept bringing the conversation back to, like, maths.
Of course.
And I was like, I like that. When I see someone like that, that's usually, like, a good sign for me. I know I can talk to this person. So you piqued my curiosity. And also, you had stuck it out the whole trip down and back up the hill with no lights. You were complaining the entire time. To be fair.
Absolutely.
But it just added to the great.
I'm going to do it for my friends. Like, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to complain about it. But I will do it. Yes. Absolutely. I don't even personally really want to take anything up the butt in general. I'm like, just leave my butt alone. I don't know, just leave it alone personally. So technically I was on his side, but...
Really? I did not catch that at all.
But I do think we should always keep an open mind to things. Like, I could be convinced by my partner if that's what they wanted to do.
If they told you those statistics.
I mean, it's pretty good statistics if you ask me. It's pretty good.
Really, it's so specific. It could not be disinformation, you know? There's no way that that's made up.
Someone tried this.
It's so
Someone
specific.
did it.
Right. Somebody did do this. Otherwise, how would they know?
How do you know? I mean, because there's no way they're purely going off of, like, math alone. Like, you know what I mean? Someone tried it.
Yeah, why a raccoon?
Someone tried it. I have to believe that. I have to. Because a raccoon's a very specific animal.
Oh my gosh. So, let us move on.
Yeah. Because I could talk about raccoons up the butt for hours.
We could have about 5 episodes about that alone. And if we want us to, we can make it happen. So, let us know.
Yeah.
We're taking DMs and emails.
Maybe we'll find a volunteer. I'll find some raccoons.
Oh my gosh. That would be awesome. So you're in your mid-20s.
Yes.
When did you first realize you're pansexual? Did you assume that you were straight before that?
Yes. So I realized that I was not straight when I was a senior in high school. So I was like 17 years old. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, I spent my whole life doing like musical theater, which should have been my first clue, but that's besides the point.
Of course.
Because of musical theater, I met the person who would later become my first girlfriend. Through that and like meeting her, that I discovered like, oh. And I think it's like one of those things where like I always knew. But because I did also like men, it was very easy to just be like, I'm straight, you know, and we're just gonna shut the door and ignore. I'm doing a lot of hand motions for the people that can't see me.
Yes, you do talk with your hands.
It's really
You
bad.
have full conversations.
I do. I really do.
Just with your hands.
I'd be really good at sign language.
Yes.
Maybe. I gotta learn Korean first. One language at a time.
Though that might be useful. Yeah.
Right? But yeah, it was really easy to ignore that I was like queer.
Yes.
Compact. But when I met her, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm not straight. I don't know what I am, but it's definitely not straight. And it probably wasn't until I went to college, I want to say. It was like end of high school, beginning of college, that I discovered pansexuality and all of that and kind of like truly figured out exactly what shape my little puzzle piece was. Trying to fit into this world. I realized that I was queer senior year of high school was when I like realized and accepted that this was a reality of mine.
Right. Do you feel like you had any trouble accepting the fact that you were queer, or there was like other like external obstacles at the time?
Yeah, so I had no issue with the fact that I was queer. I had queer friends already. And so I was like, cool, this is just a thing that is sometimes. My biggest worry was really like with my family. Because like both sides of my family are pretty religious. And I had already kind of distanced myself from religion by this point in my life anyway. But obviously like my family's like, we go to church and we do all the things. And I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. And so as I was like experiencing like my first like queer relationship, I did come out to my mom 4 months into the relationship. I live with my mom. She's going to figure this out. I'm 17 years old and I live with my mother. She's going to figure it out. I just feel like I can't hide this. I'm not that sneaky.
Yeah.
Also, I've always told my mom everything.
Right.
So I came out to her. Things were fine. Whatever. It's all cool. Certain people, like in my mom's half of the family, know I have never told my dad to this day. Not a single member of that half of the family knows at all. I'm sure they have inklings because at this point I don't go out of my way to hide it from them anymore, but I'm also not like telling them about it either. So like I guess it's just really like how willfully ignorant are you going to be?
Yeah.
But I also haven't had a ton of relationships since then either. So it's like, who knows? I'm sure they might guess because I don't think they're dumb, you know?
That's very kind of you to say.
They're smart people. I don't think they're dumb. I think if they don't know, then at that point, I think they have chosen to not know. Like, my stepmom follows me on Instagram. There's no way you don't know. And if they don't know by now, then when I eventually share this podcast episode, if they listen to it, they're gonna know now. So,
yeah.
Hi!
If they can get through the raccoon part.
The raccoon in the butt.
Yes. This is going to be a soft landing to whatever that experience is going to be for your family members.
So, whatever. But at this point, like, I'm all the way across the world. I think I worried about it more when I was at home and kind of, like, still depended on all of the people in my family.
Sure.
And I was like, what's going to happen if they find out? But now that, like, I don't depend on them at all, they couldn't help me now, even if, like, I needed them to. So I just, whatever. If they find out, they find out.
Problem solved.
Yeah, I'm not racing to tell them, but I'm also like, I'm not going to hide it at this point.
Yeah. I feel like that's always like I don't know. That's been the case with me, at least. I mean, I did sit down some of my family members when I was coming out as non-binary a few years ago, but I never told them about my pansexuality. It just sort of comes up sometimes.
Yeah.
You know? And I'll just be like, I don't hide anything. But also, exactly like with your family members who maybe choose not to know, choose not to think about it or be aware of it, there are a few of my extended family members who are following me on Instagram. I know they watch my stories. So I'm like, if you don't know, and you're not bringing it up in conversations. You know, I see my extended family members pretty regularly, so if you're not bringing up my voice changing, the fact that I have like kind of a baby mustache going right now, you know, when I forget to shave for a few days, then you're really signaling to me that maybe you're not ready to talk about it.
Right.
I'm just, you know, I'm okay with that. I don't feel very uncomfortable with that. So I feel like that's a good way to navigate those situations if you're out to yourself, you know? And also in your case, you're living halfway across the world too. So that makes everything easier.
It really does. It really does.
Right.
Absolutely.
Save those conversations for real get-togethers whenever you choose to go back home. So how do you feel about it now? Do you feel like a little bit differently about it, or does it not matter to you? Do you think it only matters in relationships?
Yeah, I think it just doesn't matter. Half the time I don't even think it matters to be in a relationship. Like, I just... I feel like that's weird, because, like, I don't even know what I want. The words aren't there for me to figure out the train of thought that's going on up here right now.
You're not ready to have this conversation yet.
I don't know. I'm trying to think. Honestly, to me personally, like, I don't feel like it matters. Like, I don't even really think about my sexuality half the time. Like, I know that it's there.
Yeah.
I know that I am. If someone asks me, I'm immediately like, oh, like, I'm pansexual. Like, it's just not a big deal to me at all. I feel like it's the least cool thing about me.
Okay. Let me ask you 2 follow-up questions.
Okay.
A, when you tell people that you're pansexual, do they ask you, what does that mean?
Yes. Yes, every time.
Okay, and what do you say to that?
So I'm gonna start this spill with a disclaimer.
Okay, do it.
Personally, I think most labels are bullcrap. I do also believe, though, that labels help us kind of figure out who we are and help us navigate the world, whatever. I do think they're important. I also think they're crap. This is how I view pansexuality and what it means to me. If anybody hears this and they're like, I don't agree with you. First of all, that's fine. You're allowed your opinion. You don't have to agree with how I choose to view it. This is how I view it in my bubble, in my world. If you don't like it, argue with your mama, not with me. That's all I gotta say. Argue with your mama.
Or don't.
Or don't. Whatever. But just don't argue with me. I don't care. So for me, I'm gonna roll back a little bit and start with, when I do explain how I feel about pansexuality, most people immediately look at me and they go like, isn't that just like bisexual with extra steps? And I'm like, basically. So to me, so let me just explain. I want everyone to close their eyes who's watching this, and I need you to picture something for me.
Nobody's
watching this. I
watching
want you to picture a giant, listening to this. I want you to picture a giant umbrella, and the whole umbrella is bisexuality. That's the whole thing. And pansexual is just like underneath this bisexual umbrella. That's kind of what I want you to picture. Or you can think about it like this. If you're a STEM person like me, it's kind of like how all squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares.
That actually makes sense, yeah.
All dolphins are whales, but not all whales are dolphins. You know what I mean?
See.
Right. So that's hopefully one of those three things made it click for you a little bit.
So in this analogy, bisexuality is the dolphins.
No, switch it.
It's square.
In this, it's the square. What? No. So in this situation,
yes, bisexuality is the square.
Yeah, pansexuality is the square.
Oh.
Bisexuality is the rectangle, right? All squares are rectangles. Not all rectangles are squares. And if anyone needs to understand that, please just Google the properties of rectangles and squares. I guess, whatever. So for me, this is a really long-winded way of like telling you my definition.
Yes.
When I was introduced to bisexuality at the time, I feel like weren't really talking a lot about like non-binary and trans people either. So bisexuality always felt very restricted to me. I was like, this isn't right. This isn't encompassing all it needs to encompass. Now, at this point in my life, I'm like, it does encompass all these things. I've adjusted my definitions of all the things to kind of include it. It still doesn't feel right to me. So my view of bisexuality is like being attracted to two or more genders. It includes all the range of spectrums, everything in there. Everyone's included. Don't fight with me. Everyone's included. But for some reason, even with that definition, I didn't like it. I was like, something's not feeling right. I just feel like it's not specific enough for me as a person.
Or it's too specific.
Maybe. I define pansexuality as being attracted to people regardless of their gender. It's just, I don't even think about it. It's not even a factor that plays a role. I don't give a shit. I don't. I just like people.
I don't give a... Okay.
I'm so sorry. It's just going to be
it's
a
okay.
meow.
We're going to meow it. Yeah.
Meow. There's going to be a lot of meows in this episode. I'm so sorry for people listening. I get passionate and then I start cursing.
That's all right.
Anyway.
That's okay. You do you.
But yeah, so that's what it is for me. It's like attraction to people completely, like, regardless of their gender. It doesn't play a role for me whatsoever. I really don't even think about it. I'm just like, I like this person a lot.
I'm gonna cry.
Don't cry.
I'm gonna cry. You know why?
Why?
Because it's literally in one of the questions that I was going to ask you. You have the question sheet, but literally you are one of the very few real-life pansexual people that I've met. Like, people who identify as pansexual. I'm including myself in this, obviously. Really, I can count on one hand the number of times I've met queer people, and then we're just having a conversation, and I'm like, oh, I'm pan. I'm like, what? I'm pan too. And then we're like sparkly-eyed, and we're like holding both hands
like, oh
just
my
in a class.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh my gosh, you too, me too. It really does sometimes feel like meeting a unicorn out in the wild. And I love the fact that the number's growing, but you are one of the few people, and I feel like your definition is pretty much maybe like the textbook definition, actually.
I think it probably
if you look up pansexuality,
is.
Yeah. In our neurodivergent minds, we're like, disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer to everything we say.
Disclaimer, all the disclaimers.
Because we know that words are imperfect,
Right.
And people's brains are imperfect and communication is imperfect. But to hear you say that gender does not factor in and also presentation doesn't factor in, body parts don't factor in, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to make sure. Disclaimer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, none of it. Yeah.
That's exactly how I feel with, people that I'm attracted to. And I just feel like whenever I tell people like that's what it means, people always smile and they're like, oh, yeah, great. That's great. Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But I also get the feeling that they think I'm bullcrapping them a little bit.
Yeah.
Just because it is maybe in this like heteronormative, cisnormative world, it's hard to imagine being attracted to people regardless of whatever.
Right.
But also maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe we've all felt these attractions and just like you when you were younger, we've sort of pushed them aside and just go like, but that's not the same.
Right.
That's not the same as being attracted to somebody of the quote-unquote opposite gender because then the parts fit like they're supposed to and, we can do all the things that media shows us to be romantic, quote-unquote right way. Mm-hmm. So just to hear somebody else say that voluntarily, even though I did ask the question, just brings tears to my eyes because I'm like, Danee, you do get me. We are bosom friends.
Of course, we are. We are. Look.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome. And then my second question.
Yes.
We cannot forget. Bullet points.
Bullet points.
My second question is, you said that you haven't had a relationship since your first girlfriend, but I know that you've had, entanglements. Entanglements has been ruined. Yeah, basically, yeah. You do sort of like meet people.
Yeah.
Beyond the platonic ways.
Yeah.
So when you do you tell them that you're pansexual? Even if it's like a straight cis dude?
No, not always.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying like going back to like all the people I've met.
You're so popular.
No. If it comes up in conversation, then I never lie. Like all the way. Like this is who I am. Sometimes it doesn't come up. I'm trying to think about all the people all the people that I've slept with. It sounds like a lot. I promise I can count the total number of people I've slept with on one hand. I may have just recently graduated to two hands. Like, whatever. So I'm like,
we don't have to go into too much detail.
We don't. That's as far as I'm gonna go with this. It's a low number. So I had to clarify because I was like, with all the people, it makes it sound like I'm just out here getting busy. I'm not. I swear to God, I'm not getting busy like that. But
it also doesn't have to be like somebody you've had sexual encounters with. Right. It could be somebody that you feel the potential for it, or like just in some other context it comes up or it feels relevant.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think it's like if they ask, sure. A lot of people don't ask.
That's another thing. A lot of people just assume that you're straight.
They do, yeah.
They really do. So they will not ask. They really do. And also, like, if you're pansexual, obviously you have the capacity to be attracted to somebody who presents as a cis man. Who might or might not identify as straight. But if we're going in with the assumption that he is straight and that you are a cis woman, and then he's interested in you because he's reading you correctly as a cis woman, then, like, does that come up? I feel like it comes up in conversation with me more just because I always, whenever I have, like, a meaningful interaction with somebody, I always tell them I'm trans. Right. So it kind of comes up. Mm-hmm. So
it doesn't normally come up, like, because, again, a lot of times they don't ask. And I guess I've never been the person who's just like, hi, I'm Danee. I'm pansexual. Like, it's just not, like, one of those things that immediately follows. Because, again, like I mentioned before, I think it's, like, one of the least interesting things about me. And I'm a pretty interesting person. Got a lot of fun facts.
You are.
I guess it just is. If they ask or if it comes up, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to be honest about it. You can ask me questions. Whatever. Yeah, it's just never one of those things where I think I should tell you that I'm pan. It just never really comes up in my head.
I want to ask you another follow-up question.
Okay, go for it.
Do you feel like in society, mainstream society in general, and also like in media, do you feel like there's a little bit of a pan erasure or pan forgetfulness?
I think so. Because I've had a few conversations lately, actually, with people about being pansexual.
Right.
And it's like I tell them, and of course they immediately ask me, well, what is that? And then I tell them, and they're like, isn't that just bisexual? And I'm like, well, not exactly. And even as I'm like kind of explaining everything, they're just kind of like, okay. But it's like that okay that's like, so you're basically bisexual. And that's how I'm gonna like remember exactly how it is you identify. And I'm like, but that's not, what? Like, what? Okay. So yeah, I definitely think that there is. I think that there is.
Does it ever annoy you?
Oh, all the time. All the time.
Oh, okay.
I honestly think that's probably why I don't just go tell people, hi, I'm pansexual. Because I don't feel like having this conversation again and then having them look at me again with these eyes of like, okay. Like, why do you do this? It's the most condescending sounding okay I've ever heard in my life. And honestly, it's probably why I don't talk about it more. Because I'm just over it. I'm over it.
Yeah.
Even with other queer people too. Like, even it's not just like I expect it from straight people. Like, I expect it from them. Like, I've even had conversations with queer people and it's a similar thing of it just sounds like you're bisexual. And I'm like, no.
Right.
I'm not.
Yeah.
But whatever.
I mean, that's why I want to cry tears of joy whenever I actually meet another pansexual person, because they know, they get it. They get it. They get it.
Yeah.
I'm getting really aggressive with this. I always get aggressive
when
I feel joy.
Keep that aggression.
Yeah. And I feel like there's like a little bit, with me at least, there's a little bit of insecurity whenever I talk to my brother, for example, who is cis straight guy in a cis straight relationship. And my brother and my sister-in-law are wonderful people, not queerphobic or transphobic in the least. And sometimes when we catch up, they'll ask me, oh, are you seeing anybody? And I rarely see anybody. You know, I barely have enough energy for me. So, and I am also gray sexual and gray romantic. So usually the answer is no. But in the rare instance that I am interested in someone, or I am actually kind of engaged in something with someone, I usually end up telling them, oh, this woman or this man, right? And I feel like there's just not as many opportunities to really showcase my pansexuality.
Right.
In a practical way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's just like an interesting thing you experience as a pan person.
Yeah.
And obviously there are people who identify as bisexual who are attracted to trans people, non-binary people, and it's up to you how you use your labels. But yeah, with pansexuality, whenever I come across anybody who identifies actively as a pansexual, it's like finding an oasis.
Yes.
In a desert, right? I cannot tell you how I squealed out loud when I saw, like, I don't know, E! News article about Wayne Brady coming out as pansexual. And I was like, are you...
Like, what?
Are you serious? Are you for real? I have to find out everything about this instant. And I still, like, my heart is beating faster now talking about it because I was just so happy. I'm like, a media personality in the mainstream media, like, who's also a dude, who is like, I'm pansexual and this is what it means to me. He actually did have his own definition of being pansexual, but he also acknowledged, I'm butchering the dictionary definition of this, and I'm like, you know what? You're beautiful. You're just beautiful. And apparently he's also an introvert. So I'm just like...
we love introverts.
Totally unilateral, like one-sided friendship. I feel another beginning of a beautiful friendship. Just on my side. So anyway, pansexual people are precious people. We need to be protected.
They are.
And cherished at all costs.
Too. Also, I feel like we're all Hufflepuffs.
Oh my gosh.
Every single one of us. I don't think I've ever met a pansexual who's not a Hufflepuff.
I feel like at heart I'm a Hufflepuff, but whenever I used to, pre J.K. Rowling being the person that she is now, I used to take those tests and I always got Ravenclaw, which I was like, is this because I'm Asian? Like,
stop!
Are you categorizing me?
Are you...
Based on certain ethnic traits.
That's so funny. That's so funny.
But literally, yes. I like to think I'm half...
Half and half.
Half and half. Nos. It's like, you know, it's the best way to drink coffee. So, anyway, what is this conversation?
Yeah. Who knows?
I definitely think you're a Hufflepuff. You run the place.
Yeah, it is. I am like
you're the head girl.
If you look up, what is a Hufflepuff example... picture of me.
Is that just your picture? That's just you. That's you.
Yeah.
Smiling with your blue drink.
With my blue drink.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's me as a whole.
So I guess my last question to you, maybe on the topic of sexuality, do you feel like coming to understand that you are pansexual has changed your relationship to yourself, or like the way you see the world, yourself, just in general? Has it changed anything for you?
Ooh. I really don't think that it has, only because when it comes to like I guess, how I like rank the things about me and like how they affect my life. I feel like my sexuality always takes a backseat to all the other things about me. I feel like the other things have had more of a direct, like, I'm black before I'm queer, if that makes sense. Like, these things affect me before this one does. And so, like, it's always been like, this is a true thing about me, but right now it's not the most important thing about me. And that's just kind of how my life has operated at this point.
Right. No, that makes sense. I was having a conversation with a friend, and I was telling her about how when I was living in the UK, I just never really had room to think about my sexual orientation or my gender identity because, yeah, there are other things at the forefront of my mind about myself in the society that I was living in that I really had to focus on and that was highlighted to me over and over again. Yeah. And one of those things was my ethnicity and how that affected, like, other people's perception of me and my self-perception. Yeah. And then once I moved back to Korea, I was like, oh, I'm really pan and I'm really trans. And my friend was like, yes, that makes sense because sexual orientation is not really essential to survival.
Right.
And I'm like, that's an interesting way to think about it, but that's probably true. And so I think, yeah, that's a really, really interesting and important point.
No, absolutely.
Do you have anything to add?
No.
I'm giving you an opening.
Full stop. I was like, that's my statement. Full stop.
Okay. All right. Let's move on. My actual last question about the topic of being pan and queer is, as I've said before, you are one of the youngest friends in my network of queer friends. And when I think about myself at your age, I feel like I was looking toward older queer people to see like some examples of my options for my future. Kind of like, how could my life unfold? Because as a young person, you just generally could feel a little bit like, I don't know what the future holds, which is a really natural thing to feel. Yeah. But as like a queer young person, I kind of appreciated having like older friends around, just living their queer lives. Yeah. And I kind of got something valuable out of that. And I wonder, because now I am older than you, I look at you and I'm like, brand new life. And I wonder if you ever feel like there are things that you think about as a younger person, maybe some like curiosities, anxieties, or whatnots that you have because you're young, which is kind of a strange way to put it because you're
young.
You're the oldest you've been.
Right. I know. I think.
What's it like being a baby?
You know, first of all, I don't consider myself a baby.
I know.
You think I'm a baby.
I know that really irritates you, so I just like to say that.
I don't consider myself a baby. I don't view myself as very young. And like, even though I don't know if it's a long time, I don't really know what is a long time when it comes to like how long like you've really like known and accepted that you're queer. Because I feel like our version of a long time is not everyone else's version of a long time.
Sure. Yeah. To me, a minute is a long time.
Right. So like, for me, it's like, okay, like, I've known that I'm queer since like I was 17. I'm 25. It's been 8 years at this point. And like, not only have I like kind of, maybe it's, you know, the neurospiciness that I heavily researched, like anything and everything that has to do with it. I go down rabbit holes. So I'm trying to think now, like I don't have like any questions off the dome. But whenever I do have questions, I'm usually like, what can Google tell me? Because I'm also like, the internet. And then I've helped a lot of my friends who are like my age, obviously, come to terms with like some of their sexuality. And I've been like that person for them. Because even though we're the same age, when it comes to how long we've been openly queer, like I've been that way longer than they have. So like once I started like helping other people, I was like, I don't really consider myself like a baby gay anymore. So it's like,
yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's valid.
So yeah, we're just here vibing. I'm not the baby you want me to be.
I know. I'm sorry. It's just gonna
It's
be like
okay.
this for another year or so.
It's fine. It's okay.
I have
It's
my
fine.
own like strict standards. But I wanted to ask this question because I feel like it's easier to ask older people questions like, hey, like, is there something you wished you had known when you were like blah blah 10
Right.
years ago, 20 years ago? But like, what about the people who are that age now? Like, is
Right.
there anything they want to know now or 10 years in the future, or just the young perspective? We're all thirsting after it these days. Want to stay relevant.
Always. Stay relevant. That's hilarious. And I think it's so funny that you're always like, you're my youngest friend.
You are.
The thing is, though, is that all of my closest friends tell me that. Because all of my closest friends are in their 30s.
What?
Like, even in the States, my best friend, literally, I think she is 29 and her husband is 30. And, like, all of her friends that I also hung out with are, like, 30, 31, 32. They're all in that age bracket. And all of my coworkers that I was the closest to at work, and I mean, like, I hung out with them outside of work. We were BFFs. I was going to their houses for, like, breakfast dinners on Sunday mornings. They're all 31, 32. Those are the people I've always been the closest with. And so they always like, you're my youngest friend. I just became BFFs with this Korean lady at a noraebang.
Of course you did.
And she'll text me and be like, we should all get together and like sing together. And I was like, yeah, sure, sounds good. So now I'm in this little group chat with all these people, most of whom are Korean, and I'm the youngest person. Like everyone there is like late 30s, 40s, and I'm 25. And it's like, I'm just chilling with these people.
Okay, this is very valuable information because now you are my youngest friend. But I'm not your oldest friend.
No.
To you,
no, not at all.
I'm just a run-of-the-mill,
this is normal.
Korean friend that you make on the daily, and you just tend to attract people who are older. Yeah. Okay, I'm getting it now. So
it's very rare that like my close friends are my age. And I think the only reason right now that I have a lot of friends that are kind of my age is because the people that I happen to work with at work are my age. Yeah. And they're like the ones I see all the time because being an English teacher, like most of us are roughly the same age. Yeah. There's like a few people who have been here for years and are obviously older, but most of us are like, fresh out of college, 23 to like 27-ish.
Yeah. You know what's funny? When I was your age, most of my close friends were also quite a bit older than me too. And what I think is funny is I hated it when people are like, you're so young. Oh, you're just a baby.
And look at you now.
And now I...
do it to me.
And you really do become the things that you hate. And this is just a sad fact of life, but I'm doing that to you. I think it's like important to note that we both live in Korea.
Yeah.
And if I had met you some other place where age is not such a big social factor in just everyday interactions, the tense that you use with people who are older are different.
Right.
And the way you really interact with people based on their age, which is one of the things that you do inquire about when you meet so that you know how to address that person.
Yeah, exactly.
It's in the titles that you use for that person too. So if I had met you some other place, like back in the States or something, I might not think about your age as much. I would still think about it, but within the queer community also, what you said about you're not a baby queer anymore is really true. Because there are people who are older than us, like in their 40s, 50s, who might have just come out of the closet.
Right.
And so for them, it's like they look to you or to me and they're like, whoa, they've been doing this for a lot longer than me. What's that like? And so in the queer community where there are people of all ages, there are maybe more opportunities for friendships where there is an age gap. Just because of the way the world is, a lot of people just don't get that choice to be able to come out and live as themselves until later on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's so interesting. Yeah. I'm really starting to appreciate the age gap in our friendship now.
I'm glad. I'm glad.
Through this conversation. Awesome. Do you feel like you have a good queer community locally in Busan where you live?
Yes. So actually, I was thinking about this because I looked through all the questions, obviously, and I was thinking about my friends. And the vast majority of my friends, and when I say my friends, I mean the ones that I regularly hang out with. I have a lot of people that I'll like reach out to occasionally. But when I think about like the friends that I regularly see or regularly communicate with, almost all of them are queer. And I out with a lot of people. Like, I'm a popular person.
I believe you.
And sometimes I don't even know that about them. And like, I'll find out later. Like, I was talking to one of my friends and she mentioned something about being bisexual. And I was like, you're bi? She's like, yeah. I was like, bro, like, we've been friends for like 6 months and I didn't even know. Like, I just, craziness.
So they turned out to be queer.
Yeah.
Well.
And it's like, I had no idea. And you are beautiful. You know, like calls to like. I don't know. So, yeah, most of my friends are queer, which I love because I want all the queer people in my life all the time. So.
Yes.
So
true.
So the vast majority of them are.
Oh, cool. If you're just socializing, not necessarily in a openly queer context, that still tends to happen?
Yeah. I was like, I don't know how.
Okay, well, that's awesome.
But I love it. I love it.
So, you're black.
I am. And it's February.
You have mentioned it. It's February. It's Black History Month.
It's Black History Month. So this month, I'm blackity black. Don't play with me. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Are you doing anything to celebrate it?
I mean, like, no. Like, I don't do anything specific. I'm just more extra than usual.
Okay.
Like, it's actually really funny. So, in my old job back in the States, I always joked with my coworkers, because most of my coworkers were, for the longest time, I was the only black person that worked there. I worked in West Virginia. It's West Virginia. So, for the longest time, whenever it was February, because I worked there for almost 3 years before I left. And each February, I was like, it's my month. Don't play with me. I rolled up to work wearing dashikis and I was super extra and just all the time. I found I was playing all kinds of music and I was so extra for the entire month of February. And like, I love the friendships where you kind of like bully each other a little bit. That's the type of friend that I am. Again, it's aggressive. It's aggressive love, but it's love. And so one of my favorite coworkers, that's the relationship we had. It was like a big brother, little sister. Because, again, he's like 30-something. And I'm me over here, 25. And we just like lightly bully, not even lightly. It was aggressive. But we just like bully each other back and forth. And so always during February, I was like, you can't say nothing to me during February. This is my month. I'm not taking none of your crap. Like, this is my month. Super extra. All the time. Obviously here, I'm extra, not quite as much, because obviously, like, most people are, I've actually had some people be like, what is Black History Month?
Right.
Right? Because it's like, I'm in Korea, so, like, obviously, it's not quite the same.
Right.
But I'm still black, so I still do my thing.
Yeah, it is an American tradition.
Yes.
And just because of the people I follow, I'm aware. Right. But there's not that awareness in Korea. It's not really celebrated in Korea.
Right. Which, I mean, I understand. Like, that's, I completely understand. It's fine.
But this being a Black History Month, this is, okay, well, we did not plan this.
No, we didn't.
But this was part of the questions that I wrote up for you because I was really curious, and I don't think I've actually asked you directly about your experiences of being a Black woman in Korea. What has that been like?
Overall, it's been pretty positive. I was very nervous when I was like doing research to come here, just because a lot of Black women that I like followed and was listening to were having very negative experiences with people here. And like, I always knew on some level, like, it's going to be weird. Korea's a very homogenous country. Like, they're going to be like, who is this chick? And why does her hair look like this? And why is her skin so dark? I don't understand. Like, so I do it on some level. Like, obviously, it's 2024. We know Black people exist. But, like, when you don't see them every day, like, there's some wonder. And so I knew, like, on some level, I was like, this is going to be interesting. Yeah. And then after doing research, I was a little worried because all of the people that I, like, followed had very bad experiences. And so I was like, ooh. Oh, no. That's a little worrisome. But I firmly believe, but I bet it'll be different for me. Like, I'm stubborn. I don't listen to people. So, like, all my friends were like, you keep telling me about these bad stories that other Black women have had, and yet you're still gung-ho about moving to Korea. And I'm like, I'm a different person. Like, that was their experiences, and they're valid, and I'm gonna go have mine. Plus, I experience racism everywhere. Right. Quite frankly. Like, anti-Blackness is global. Like, it don't matter where I go. It's like, I'm gonna experience some form of racism. But I feel like the difference here is, it's more of like an ignorance thing. Like, they just don't know. Whereas, like, in America, this is rooted in, like, hate. Like, this is a hatred thing. And, like, a choice This is a choice that you made.
Would you say that it's fair for me to say it's kind of within similar veins of your family, some of our family members, not quite wanting to stay engaged with the knowledge of who we are?
Yes.
Even when we share them. There's an opportunity to learn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same thing.
But they have their reasons for not choosing to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I was a little nervous. I was nervous about coming, but I was like, we're coming anyway. I got my best friend with me. I'm going to have a great time. And I just don't really let a lot of things bother me. I probably should let more things bother me. But I'm just like, whatever. I'm determined to have a good time. I'm determined to like be a positive, happy person. And I'm going to force everybody to endure my positivity and my happiness. And it must be working. Because I have had very positive experiences here. I've had negative experiences, but none of them have been necessarily like because I'm Black. It's more like they're just negative experiences because like I'm a foreigner in Korea. So like the taxi drives away. I mean, it's only happened once. As I said before, like, most of my taxi experiences have been great. Yeah. But I think the only times I've really had like negative experiences as a Black woman in Korea is really when it comes to dating and not just living. Like my life living is fine.
Right.
Like no one really bothers me. No, I haven't had any microaggressions or people being like, whatever, my school treats me fine. Like everything's fine. The only time I really notice a difference is when it comes to like dating people. In which I didn't come to Korea to like find someone and fall in love. I came to teach English. But like I'm a romantic person and I like romance. So obviously you want to do romantic things, almost cursed again, romantic things with other people. And that's where I see like all the differences. I'll go out to a bar with my pretty little white friend and everyone kind of gravitates towards them. And then like later they meet me as a result of coming to talk to them. And it's like, oh, well, you're kind of cool too. And then like I form a friendship, but no one ever approaches me and is like, I'm gonna go flirt with her. Like that's just not how I navigate Korea. Unfortunately, but it is what it is. It is. Because I kind of have like two strikes against me because I'm Black and I'm fat. And I don't say fat negatively. It's just a statement. It just is. I love myself regardless. But like those two things are both true. And so like it's just a little bit harder to like find people that are willing to look past that and still. So those are the only times it's negative. Like the rest of my life is fine. No negative experiences I have otherwise are because I'm Black, I've found.
Thank you for sharing that.
You're so welcome.
Do you feel like being a Black queer person in the queer communities that you have found? Because like you never really leave your race at the door anywhere you go.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking from my experience of living in a white-centric society for a big portion of my life in the UK. But, like, you really don't. But I also never got to experience the proper queer community when I was living in England because I didn't really have room to explore that until I came back here. But I still noticed some dynamics in the international queer community over here. So I was wondering if you feel comfortable sharing your experiences on that front.
Oh, goodness. It has always been, whether in the US or here, I think being a Black queer person has always been very frustrating for me because it always feels like my experiences kind of get overshadowed by the experiences of like my white counterparts, right? Or if I do have a very specific experience as a Black queer person that like white people haven't had, like they just kind of throw it on the fact that like, oh, well, it's because you're Black. And I'm like, but it still affects me also as a queer person as well. Yeah. And so it's kind of like they separate, like they try to separate issues. Right. And I'm like, but you can't separate this issue. No. It is very much intertwined. Like we can't separate the two. Yeah. And it gets very frustrating. The other thing that's frustrating, and this is more so something I experienced like back home, is like when issues do happen that solely affect the fact that I'm Black and not necessarily the fact that I'm queer. It's like white queer people are like, well, that has nothing to do with me. so I'm gonna be over here. Meanwhile, I'm fighting every fight, because let's be real, everything affects every part of my life. Like, I am a Black queer woman. It just, everything affects everything.
Right.
And so I don't have the privilege of being able to pick and choose which battles I fight. I have to fight for all of them. And so it's very frustrating to then watch my white queer friends kind of like choose to distance themselves from other issues. Because like, well, this doesn't affect me.
Right.
And like, because like, as a Black person, we tend to very much view things as like, if it affects like part of our, well, not actually, let me back up. Because not all of them think that way. I personally think that if it affects like one part of my community, then it affects like all of my community, right? So it's like, I have to fix that issue. So like, even though this doesn't affect you as a white person, this is affecting Black queer people. So like, we are part of your community. So you should, but they don't, they separate. They separate, and it's very frustrating because I can't separate it. I don't have that privilege.
Right.
So it's very frustrating. It makes it easy to be very like resentful.
Yeah.
I try not to be that way. And it's not all people. There are plenty of white queer people that do fight the fight all the way. And I love them. But it is not everyone.
Yeah.
Which can be frustrating.
I mean, frustrating is really a polite way to put
it.
It
is. I'm trying to be nice.
Yeah. Yes. This is a PG podcast. And you are a very a lover of humanity, I feel like, from other conversations and interactions that we've had. But yeah, that actually kind of reminds me of this quote I've heard, and I really honestly cannot recall right now where I heard this, but it's always stayed with me ever since I heard it, which is, privilege is the ability to walk away from a conversation once it makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it's just so true, and I feel like that's why I wanted to ask you some of these questions, and hopefully like we can have more conversations on the topic of how, being racialized in this world affects our experiences as humans. And just because we're not talking about them doesn't mean that it's not happening and that we don't have to live with the impact of that every day. And I wonder, what about in Korea? Do you feel like, obviously Korea is just politically and racially and culturally is not the same as the States.
Right.
What have your experiences been like in the queer community in Korea? Do you feel like you have to be less weary of that, or is it the same thing with Korean people or people from different backgrounds?
So when it comes to, like, I guess, like the queer community here, most of my queer friends here are foreigners from all over, but mostly from the States. I don't actually know a lot of queer Korean people. I think I can count them on one hand that I actually know and talk to enough to really have any experiences with. So for that one, I don't think I have enough experience with like a large group of like Korean queer people to like really see like what the differences are. I'm friends with like 2.
Right.
Though I just met 2 more, but I just met them. So like we're not friends yet. Like I've hung out with them one time.
I'm so sorry, but I'm gonna bring up age again.
It's okay.
Sorry, not sorry.
It's fine.
Like,
it's fine.
You are younger than most of my friends that I have, and I have quite a few friends who live in the States or are from the States. Out of the friends who are currently living in the States, who are, I guess the term in the States that's being used is people of color.
I hate that. Because I'm Black. We're Black. There's Black people, and then there's people of color, and they're not the same in America anyway.
Oh, really?
Because you have, at least for...
I feel like it's a blanket term.
Another Black person might tell you that. So there's like, for me, when I say like I'm Black, I mean I am a Black American person, right? Which is different than just like a person of color. Because like person of color includes basically like anybody who's got some melanin in them. And that doesn't always, and like that person of color also includes like, like immigrants who are like in America.
Yeah.
But like I am American at the end of the day. Like I was born in America. My parents were born in America. My parents' parents were born in America.
Yeah.
We're just also Black. So I'm always like, I'm Black. Like, I'm a Black American. I'm Black. It just, for me, I don't know. I know, who knows? Someone else might be like, no, I'm not. I don't.
Yeah.
Argue with your mama. I'm black. Argue with whatever.
So, the term POC, for me, I really came across when I moved back to Korea and I started meeting people from North America who are using this term. I didn't really become familiar with the term when I was living in the UK because I don't feel like that's a term that's used really outside of the United States that much.
It's really not.
Yeah, it has a very specific cultural background as well. A while ago, I became aware of the term people of the global majority.
Ooh.
Which is kind of long. But if you consider the global context of, I guess, what people across the globe look like, that is a more accurate term to describe people who don't read as white or how they identify racially or ethnically. So anyway, all of this to say that a friend of mine who is Asian, who's living in the States currently, they were talking about a queer group made up of people of specific ethnic backgrounds and, what kind of value that has for this person. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. And this group was made up of people from across the spectrum of ethnicities. So it's not just one culture, not just Korean culture, but it was, multicultural group. And what that reminded me of as a Korean queer person living in Korea right now is this sense of people understanding intersectionality and kind of having that sense of camaraderie. Your struggle may not be my direct struggle, but I see how it's connected. So let's put our heads together, hearts together, and understand that really we're in the same boat. And I wonder if you found that more in the States rather than in Korea, or vice versa, or both?
That's a good question. Let's see here. Now I'm thinking now about my experiences with different communities. I have a stronger queer community with me now than I did in the States. Obviously, I had lots of queer friends in the States. They were all individual, right? I was I'm friends with this person and I'm friends with this person, but they're not friends with each other.
Right.
Whereas it really is a community. We're all friends with each other. The queer community in Busan is small.
Yeah.
So it's we all know each other. We're all here together. Whereas back home, it was well, I'm friends with these queer people individually, but I wouldn't really call us a community.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I found more of that camaraderie just here, just because of the fact that all of my there's also individualistic there, which is on par for America. So it's very on brand.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I recently met somebody who is American, originally from Colombia. And this person was telling me his experiences in Korea has been more similar to the one he experienced back in the States rather than back in Colombia, in that everyone is quite self-contained and we tend to, in public spaces at least, we don't really acknowledge other people. We're all on our phones and please don't look at me.
Yeah.
Just let's pretend we're all in our little bubbles, which we are. And I was oh wow, that's so interesting. And he was yeah, back home everybody sort of just acknowledges everybody by greeting them whether you know them or not. And I've never seen that happen in Seoul recently, but when I was growing up, I feel there was a little bit more of that culture. And I know that on a different level, socially, Korea is also much more group-oriented. And once you really get to know someone, you're sort of taken in to the fold. Some people don't like that. Some people don't like, being a little bit too close socially. Everybody sort of knows everybody's business and all that stuff. But it also comes with people caring for you.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was interesting. And I wonder if that was more of a city thing or, does that have to do with modernization?
I think maybe
is it really a cultural thing? I don't know.
Because I've lived and visited, right? I've been all up and down the East Coast of America. And America's so huge and different in every state that you go to. I feel in New York, if you go to New York, because I've spent so much time up there, it's very similar to Korea and a sense of people don't really acknowledge you. People are going where they need to go. We're going to do what we got to do. People are in their phones. They're doing whatever. Whereas if you go like where I'm from and it's like a smaller town or a more rural area, everyone says hi to you. It doesn't matter if you know them or not. I have truly made friends with people because we were standing in line at the grocery store and they struck up a conversation with me because I just happened to be behind them at that time. It's just stuff like that. Like that Southern hospitality thing is like just so true. And people, they do. They just talk to you. It doesn't matter. People say hi to you walking by. Even though I try to say I don't. Ultimately, I like attention. Let's be real. And so I often, I do. And so I've always done things that kind of draw attention to myself. And when I say do things, I don't mean like I act crazy or something. I often like get like bright blue hair or I wear brightly colored wigs. Things that usually make people stop and go like, ooh. And so people come up to me a lot because they're like, oh my God, I love your hair. Because like one time I had like bright blue, like fake reds. And it was great. Like, and everyone's like coming up to me and they're like, oh my God, your hair's so cute. Da, da, da. And it starts so many conversations with people. Whereas like in Korea, that doesn't happen. And I've gone around Korea in like this bright orange colored wig. I've done it because I like I'm extra. People are going to stare at me anyway in Korea. Like people stare at me regardless. Yeah. So like I may as well just be extra and be myself because I'm going to get stared at either way. But no one like comes up to you. They don't talk to you. They just stare at you and keep moving.
Right.
And I do miss some of the friendliness.
Hey, it's Jay here. My conversation with Danee will continue in next week's episode. If you have any questions for Danee so far, comments on this episode, and or your own stories of being pansexual, expat, third culture, and more, let us know. You can find us on Instagram or email us. Our Instagram handle is the_coffeeshop_AU, and our email address is hi@thecoffeeshopau.com. Thank you for listening and have a great week.